Great, thank you.
So because our cloud is full, this is going to be recorded to my computer. So it might, and I can upload it to the share drive once
Okay.
it's done, but sometimes that takes a while and the internet's not very strong at my office. So it could
Okay.
take like a few hours potentially. So
Okay.
just a heads
All
up.
right. That sounds fine. All right. So I guess, oh, and I lost it. Hold on just a second. Hey, I think we're ready to get started. So good morning, everyone. Today I'll be talking about the 2023 NRCC Enhancement, Development, Design, and Implementation Block Grant, EDDIBG. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lena Smith, and I'll be the program manager for this grant. Molly's helping me today with the chat, so if you have a question as I go through this, you can put it in the chat or you are welcome to unmute yourself. I also have some times in the presentation that I'll pause to take questions. Thanks, Molly. This grant is funded by the Vermont Environmental Conservation District, Conservation Clean Water Initiative Program. The intent of the EDDIBG is to support the development, design, and implementation of priority water quality enhancement projects. NRCC has approximately $790,000 available for this grant round. Project development grants and design and implementation grants have been separate grants in the past. This grant has combined these two separate grants into one. But having said this, the grant round that we are doing now is just the design and implementation portion. If you're interested in funding for project development, we do have funding available on a rolling basis, and you can contact me about this.
Lena, I'm not. Oh, never mind. I wasn't sure if you were trying to move through slides. You're good though. It moved.
It moved? Okay. Okay, what makes this grant different? The primary purpose of the design and implementation block grant was to improve water quality by reducing nutrient and sediment pollution. The enhancement grant has broadened to include benefits that have historically been considered co-benefits, such as habitat improvements, flood resiliency, and pollutant reduction. So the first step in this is determining if your project fits into the enhancement funding, and it's a multi-level process. I put the link to the VACD NRCC grants page here, and if Molly, you could put it in the chat. There you'll find the QIP funding policy, which is the governing document for clean water grants. You'll find the RFA, the application, and other documents that will help guide you through the application process. Your project must be one of these allowable project types: lake shoreland, rivers, floodplains, stream restoration, forestry, wetlands, stormwater, roads and stormwater gully projects, or agricultural pollution prevention. The project types table, which is part of the clean water funding policy, is referenced here at the bottom of the slide and is available as a separate document on the VACD website. It gives more information about the allowable project types, standards, milestones, and deliverables. If your project is allowable project type, it must then meet at least one of the objectives taken from the Clean Water Funding Initiative Program. Those are to minimize anthropogenic nutrient and organic pollution, protect and restore aquatic and riparian habitats, minimize flood and fluvial erosion hazards, minimize toxic and pathogenic pollution and chemicals of emerging concern. The next step of this multi-step process is to consider these three criteria. Your project must meet the eligibility criteria on pages 9 through 16 of the QIP funding policy. So as part of the application process, you'll be required to submit a project eligibility screening form. This form is linked here and located on the grant's webpage as well. It will guide you through getting a watershed projects database number. It'll screen permit and natural resource impacts and take you through other requirements. This screening form should be filled out first and submitted with your application. Your project must be non-regulatory. Those are projects that are performed voluntarily and not required or compelled by water quality related programs. A couple of notes here on this. Voluntary projects may still be subject to regulatory oversight and may require one or more permits. Also, there may be a case where an individual project is designed to both fulfill and exceed regulatory requirements, and portions of the project may be eligible. So if there's a question about this, let me know and we can talk it through. Okay, so you have determined that your project is an allowable project type. You met one of the 4 objectives. You filled out the project eligibility screening document and have referred to the QIP funding policy for guidance, and determined that your project is non-regulatory. So you are now at the last step. Sorry. Project must meet at least one of the following statutorily defined purposes for water quality enhancement grants: protect high quality waters, maintain or improve water quality, restore degraded or stressed waters, create resilient watersheds and communities, or support the public's use and enjoyment of the state's waters. So I'll quickly go through the definitions of some of these defined purposes, but refer to the RFA for more complete information for each of them. For the purposes of this grant sub-initiative, high-quality waters are defined as any waters not listed as altered or impaired in the relevant tactical basin plan. Any eligible clean water project located upstream of a high-quality water body is considered to have potential to protect high-quality waters. The listed link is a tool provided to help you in locating high-quality waters, and you can also reach out to your tactical basin planner or your river scientist for help on this. Restore degraded or stressed waters. The link to a list of impaired waterways is listed here and also in the grant RFA to help you determine if the body of water you wish to apply for is degraded or stressed. Again, you can contact your tactical basin planner or your river scientist if you have questions about that. Create resilient watersheds and/or communities. Projects that assist with a community's resilience against the ecological responses to a changing climate. Again, these are eligible as long as they meet all the other eligibility criteria. Support the public's use and enjoyment of the state's waters. Signage, condensed access, and/or targeted outreach and education surrounding the project are all considered eligible project components and primary project benefits to support the public's use and enjoyment of state waters. Other restoration-focused activities may also de facto support the public's use and enjoyment of the state's waters by making the waters more swimmable, fishable, and/or drinkable. This has been a quick overview of how to determine if a project is eligible for this funding. I'm wondering if anyone has any questions up until this point. No questions? Okay, let's go on. So next we'll talk about funding restrictions. A full list of funding restrictions is in the RFA and in the QIP policy. Some highlights are here. So a project can be wholly funded through other grant projects that can be wholly funded through other grant sources are not eligible. Part of them may be eligible if they are ill-suited, insufficient, or poorly timed, and in that case, justification would need to be provided. Operation and maintenance activities of prior implemented clean water projects, dam removal and riparian buffer planting project types aren't eligible. Gully projects are eligible if they address upstream flow. The 3 acres projects are not eligible, and no invasive species management projects are allowed. Next are ineligible expenses. I won't take the time to read these now. Again, you'll find them in the RFA, but you should look at these when you are creating your budget. I do want to point out the first ineligible expense noted here, though. Using higher cost materials or more complex design than what is necessary to achieve the project's clean water outcomes would need to be covered by another funding source. These additional expenses could be considered as leverage, though. So, a panel consisting of NRCC staff and technical partners will review projects and score them on the selection criteria noted on this slide: project need, purpose, scale, likelihood, and budget. You'll see that all these criteria are addressed in the application form. NRCC has no required match for this grant round, although a match is always appreciated. If your project has a strong benefit to private landowners, NRCC will consider matched leverage funds when evaluating the project. EDDIBG funds can be used as required match for other funders. If you plan to use this funding as a match for other received awards, please make sure you note it in your application. So, are there any questions about that before we go on to the historic preservation? All set? Okay. So the VDHP review is new to this grant application. This is required in order to identify a project's potential impact to historic buildings and structures, historic districts, historic landscapes and settings, and to known or potential archaeological resources. The project review occurs between the Vermont State Historic Preservation Office and the project proponent. I put the link here to a webinar that DEC did on this process, and the QIP funding policy addresses this at length. This process can take quite a while and can come with increased funding costs that are unknown at the time of the application. Note that this review doesn't have to be done before you apply, but it needs to be done before funds are awarded, and you should include these additional expenses in your budget. On the right-hand side of the slide is a list of exempt project types. This is the full list, and not all are relevant to this project. So these conditional exempt project types, agriculture, pollution prevention, roads, stormwater, roads and stormwater gullies, and forestry, may not have to go through the historical review process if they meet all of the 5 conditions listed below. Again, you can find more information in the QIP funding policy about this. So just to review this process, step 1, you confirm project type is either exempt, non-exempt, or conditionally exempt. If your project is non-exempt, you will need to complete the project review form. Note that step 2, 3, and 4 can be funded through this grant program and should be included in your budget. The project review form may determine there is no further review needed, or you may need to proceed with the cultural resource assessments that are listed in step 3. An archaeological resource assessment, a phase 1, 2, or 3 site evaluation, and you may need to go on to step 4 and address adverse effects. So we realize until this process is done, it's unknown what this might entail and how it might affect your budget. We encourage you to begin this process as soon as possible and keep us informed of any increased costs. This is the list of application materials and it's also located in the RFA, which I keep saying, on the VACD website. A couple of notes here. You can bundle a 30% and a final design application together, or a final design and an implementation application together, but not all three. So the invoicing or the reporting for this grant is very similar to the design and implementation block grant. To receive full project funds, the project must adhere to all project and funding guidelines and deliverables outlined in the FY23 QUIP funding policy, the project types tables, the project eligibility screening form, and the grant agreement. And grantees may invoice for actual cost incurred throughout the project monthly or less frequently as necessary. So our partners in this grant are Watersheds United and MARC. All three entities, besides ourselves, have been awarded funds through the enhancement grant. The funding requirements are the same for all entities, though the application and grant administration process may vary somewhat. While we encourage NRCDs to apply to NRCC, watershed groups apply to WUV, and municipalities to MARC, all eligible entities can apply through any enhancement grant fund holder. So we'll all be working together to coordinate these applications. I just wanted to touch on water quality restoration formula grants. If your project is in the Champlain or Memphremagog basins and has particularly high phosphorus reduction numbers, it's likely the project will fit better in the water quality restoration formula grants program. NRCC's application will screen any potential projects that could be a better fit for this. And lastly, important dates. The application is due October 13th, with the award announcements in November. Spending authorization begins January 1st, and all projects must be completed by March 15th of 2026. So if anyone has any questions.
Lena, I have a question.
Sure.
As far as the due date goes, if not all the funds are awarded in this round, will a second round be opening up, or will then applications be accepted on a rolling basis?
We anticipate that we will have another round. The $790,000 was the initial funding, but we have been informed that we will receive more funding later on. So that's in the works.
Great.
No other questions? So if anyone does have any other questions after we're done here, please shoot me an email. And I'd be glad to work with anybody through your application process. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, Lena.
Bye-bye.